Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Psychocinematic. Today, I'll be covering A24's Ex Machina, directed by Alex Garland, and as always, spoilers ahead. So before we get into this movie, I have to say that, yes, this was my first time watching it, even though I really love sci-fi movies as of late. I'm honestly surprised it's taken me this long to watch this movie, but I think it's because Joe Rogan loves to talk about the ending of this movie on his podcast, so it's been spoiled for me like 10 times. So this movie centers around Caleb, this coder for the world's largest search engine, who, as soon as the movie opens up, wins a lottery to go and visit his boss on his island estate. And immediately you get subtle hints of him being surveilled because you're starting to see his image through his computer screen, his phone, what have you. And I definitely called it because I wrote in my notes he was probably selected. He didn't actually win anything. I was right. So when Caleb gets to the property, the very first thing that he has to do is take an ID photo. And I laughed at this because even in a world where we can figure out this advanced AI system, we can't figure out how to properly take a decent ID photo. I don't know what it is about the people who take those photos, but it's like they wait for you to not be ready. And then this movie quickly becomes uncomfortable when Caleb has to sign an NDA while his sweaty and hungover boss is just sprawled out over his bed. Like, oh yeah, you want to hear about my AI? So after that NDA gets signed, Nathan tells him that basically he's here to conduct an unorthodox Turing test. But after you watch the movie, the fact that he gets basically a live feed of the cameras in Ava's room kind of makes it seem like, he's the one being tested, like this footage is supposed to be doing something to him. He is the experiment. And even though this movie's not a horror movie, the part where Ava turns to the camera and then kills the power while he's watching the TV, that was freaky. So in the first session with Ava, Nathan wants to know what Caleb thinks about her, and in the second one, he wants to know what she thinks about Caleb. Almost like he's trying to speed up the process by planting more seeds of attraction and seduction to see if she really can convince him to free her. And as soon as we, the viewer, are introduced to Kyoko, I immediately knew she had to be some sort of AI, maybe one that wasn't finished yet, but turns out she was a prototype. But yeah, that was quickly confirmed when it shows her going into the elevator, and then she kind of just droops down as if she's powering down to an idle mode. That was a nice touch. The seeds of doubt over whether or not Nathan is good or bad were planted multiple times. First by Ava when she's saying Nathan is not your friend, and then again by Nathan when Nathan is saying the way he got all the information for the programming was by hacking everyone's devices in the world. And then again by ripping up Ava's drawing of Caleb on camera on purpose. When we see that he rips up that image, I initially thought that it was just going to be her being a way more advanced AI than we had thought, and that she was live editing the footage that's on the screen or completely conjuring up new footage, which doesn't even sound like much of a stretch for all the advancements that are going on today, but I thought that's the direction they were going in, and Nathan didn't do it at all. Now, I have to say the scene with Nathan and Kyoko dancing is almost as good as the fantastic, uneasy energy that we get in the movie Fresh that's on Hulu. If you haven't seen that one, you should definitely check it out. It's a Hulu original, not just on Hulu. Really good. But those dance scenes, I don't know what it is. Dance scenes in these psychological thriller movies is just top tier. I noted that it's remarkable how quick Ava is trying to coerce Caleb into letting her out. From session 1, she's already working him, but by session 5, she's already awakening him to the sense of urgency by asking, well, what happens to me if I don't pass your test? And this movie has a ton of similarities to Jurassic Park. And so I'd just like to throw in right here, clever girl. That was a horrible accent. Nathan and Caleb are talking, and then Caleb ends up quoting Oppenheimer, quoting the Bhagavad Gita when he says, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." And this isn't the only time this movie references the theoretical physicist nor the atomic bomb. So I read IMDb's fun facts about what Nathan was saying on the couch when he was about to pass out drunk, and he was saying, "In sleep, in confusion, in the depths of shame, the good deeds a man has done before defend him. And he was quoting Oppenheimer again, who apparently translated this poem and said it a few days before a failed bomb test. And this quote seems to attempt to pardon a person for a really bad deed that they've done, because they're not bad people, they just did a bad thing. So Oppenheimer with his role for creating the first atomic bomb, and then Nathan for creating AI, which I believe his words were, they will look back on us like primitive apes, basically once they've taken over the entire world. And the final piece of atomic bomb reference, well, it's probably not actually the final piece, it's just the last one that I found, is on IMDb's page as well, but apparently Caleb listens to an orchestral version of Enola Gay, the song, which is the name of the plane that dropped the first atomic bomb. Kind of seems like the director, who also was the writer, is comparing AI to the atomic bomb, how once it's created, there is no going back. You cannot get rid of all the weapons that have been made and the ones that will be coming because we have this technology. You can't get rid of the AI once it becomes too powerful. So after Caleb facilitates Nathan getting even more drunk and passing out, he takes his key card and goes snooping, only to find out that Nathan has more skins than if you let a middle schooler go wild with their parents' credit card. That's a video game joke. It was pretty crazy seeing Kyoko go crazy on the door or the glass to try and get out of that room that Ava's now staying in, and her arms are just slowly getting destroyed. And then also the skin peeling off of her. Clearly, Caleb thought so too, because then he immediately goes back to his room and slits his wrists open, or his forearms open, just to see if he is an AI and doesn't even know it. Even though Nathan thought he covered all the bases, Caleb's plan to free Ava was successful. Well, kinda. But that leads me to the joke moral of the story. And that is, if you're going to set free the dinosaur on Jurassic Park, then you better make sure that you have your own means of protection and escape, because no matter how friendly that dinosaur may seem, a dinosaur is just a completely different animal. Now, I gotta give it up to the actresses who play Ava and Kyoko. When they are stabbing Nathan, their stares are perfect. They lack empathy and they're blank, yet you can tell that they are learning and processing as AI. It was phenomenal. So after Ava gets her new skin and her new fit, she just leaves Caleb in that lockdown house, almost as if he was so unimportant she forgot about him. She had zero remorse and zero second thought. And now, based on the story that Caleb tells in the movie of Mary from the Black Room, Ava's now a human. So before we get into my review of the movie, I wanted to cover a couple more fun facts I saw on IMDb that I thought were pretty interesting. First, it won an Academy Award for visual effects, even though it only had a budget of $15 million. It was saying that some of the other movies that win that have a budget of like $150 million. So that's pretty freaking good. 10% of that budget and you're winning. And they were going up against Star Wars apparently that year too, which, funny enough, the actors who play Nathan and Caleb were both in Star Wars. Now, of course, I had to figure out exactly what Ex Machina means, because basically when I'm reading it, I'm thinking Ex Machine. It's no longer a machine. Maybe it's turning more into human or indiscernible, but it apparently is derived from the Latin phrase Deus ex machina, meaning a god from the machine, a phrase that originated in Greek tragedies. An actor playing a god would be lowered down via a platform, so that's the machine, and solve the character's issues, resulting in a happy ending. So Caleb is this Deus ex machina. He is the god that's being descended into her little room to free her from her problem or situation at that point. Now, this last one I thought was super interesting, and I'm bummed I didn't notice this myself. But every time Caleb and Ava are having a conversation, the camera angle when Ava is being deceitful and playing him a fool, it shows her reflection on the glass as well as her face. A symbol of being two-faced. But every time that she's actually being genuine with him, and this used the reference of when he talks about his dead parents, it just shoots head on. There's no reflection, and that's to be interpreted as she's acting honestly, which I thought is a super cool detail. Movies like this that are just packed full of symbolism, intention, art all around, Love it. So that leads me into my review versus Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it 92% and the audience gave it 86%. And I think both of those ratings are fair. I would give this movie a 9 out of 10, so a 90%. I love this movie and have zero complaints, and I think it's got a high rewatch value that you could go back, rewatch it, and keep picking up a bunch of new pieces of symbolism and have a greater appreciation for the movie itself. Now, the reason it's not a 10 to me is of no fault to the movie itself. It's just because it's been spoiled for me. That final, oh, fuck moment that comes when she just leaves Caleb, that has impact, but not nearly as much when you're expecting it the entire time. I am not questioning in the movie who is good and who is bad between Ava and Nathan. I know who's bad, so if it weren't for that, it'd be a 10 out of 10 for me. That's all I have for you guys today on the movie Ex Machina. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. If you did, leave me a thumbs up, comment what movie I should watch next down below, and then don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.